Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Very happy and grateful to be amongst all of you once again this year. Last year I spent some time here, with so many devotees, speaking on so many topics, speaking the realizations. Today specifically I was discussing with the devotees. No need to stand, just give us. Hare
Krishna.
Let's ask the devotees here, especially Mataji, Mataji, to share whatever I know about the mode of deity worship. Methods you will definitely be taught in your academy, Blissful Academy. But only mood we will discuss today. The attitude behind deity worship, the significance of it, the importance of deity worship. Although Yuga Dharma is Harinam Sankirtan, still Sri Vigraha, Archana, Aradhana also has its own significance. So what is its significance? How is deity worship relevant for an average Kali Yuga sadhaka? That's what we are going to discuss in the next 2 to 3 hours. So, as all of us know, we are all Rupanugas. Rupanuga means one who is following in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami has given us this great literature on the process of Bhakti Yoga that is called Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. We are Rupanugas. Actually, we are all followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gaudiya Vaishnavas. But Rupa Goswami is so dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kaviraj Goswami glorifies Rupa Goswami in this way. Priyasvarupe Dayitasvarupe Premasvarupe Sahajabhirupe Priyasvarupe Dayitasvarupe. Rupa Goswami is very dear to Swarup Damodar Goswami, who is a dear associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Rupa Goswami is the one who understood the heart of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale. He understood the Manobhishta, the real heart of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and established it in the form of his books and temples. 2 things. Rupa and Sanatana, their contribution for our spiritual life is twofold. One, by giving us transcendental literature. 2, by also giving us the process of deity worship. They themselves worship deities. They established temples. They excavated holy places. Not just chanting the holy names. Haridas Thakur, he exclusively focused on chanting the holy names of Krishna, and he became Namacharya. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also wanted to establish the process of deity worship, temple worship, and Shastric study through Rupa and Sanatana. So he instituted them specifically. Rupa Goswami, in his divine literature of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he enumerates 64 angas of bhakti, 64 limbs of bhakti. So they are all limbs of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. I hope all of you know this. I will not get too much into Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu at this moment. I will focus more on deity worship. So in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, we follow certain vidhis. Vidhis means rules and regulations, prescriptions and prohibitions, do's and don'ts of bhakti. So all these vidhis are meant to give us guidelines on how to engage our senses in worship of the Lord. At this moment, as struggling sadhakas are neophyte practitioners of Krishna consciousness, Many sadhakas don't have the ability to emotionally connect with Krishna. There are some emotions definitely, but emotion, when it is very intense, it is called bhava. Not many are on the level of bhava bhakti. And those who are on the level of bhava bhakti cannot or do not express their bhava. It's hidden. So we cannot really figure out who is on the level of bhava bhakti. And those who don't have bhava, they try to pretend that they have bhava. They are called sahajivas. Those who have bhava, they don't reveal it. They look like sadhakas. But most of them are neither sahajiyas nor bhava bhaktas. Most of them are sadhaka bhaktas. So, for sadhaka bhaktas, the real connection with Krishna, or the primary connection with Krishna, is through senses. The mind is wandering all over the place. How many of you experience that your mind is going all over the place when you are chanting the holy names of Krishna? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay. So, hands are sincerely counting without missing a single mantra. Both people are also chanting in great ecstasy. And he chants, full world can hear. He wants to deliver entire Columbus. Mouth is chanting sincerely, hand is counting sincerely. Ears not sure whether it's hearing or not, but mind is surely wandering. For most sadhakas, because we are not at the level of bhava. Sometimes mind concentrates, and whole attempt in sadhana bhakti is to bring the mind to Krishna through engaging senses in Krishna's service. The more we engage our senses in Krishna's service, the more mind will come back on track and focus on Krishna, and thus help us develop an emotional bonding with Krishna. Clear? Because emotions are there in the mind, actions are there through senses, expressions through speech, right? Emotions, expressions, actions. So emotional bonding will take some time, but actions, we can do some action for Krishna, we can do some service to Krishna through our senses. That's what Vedi Sadhana Bhakti is. Then, out of the 64 limbs of Bhakti, 5 are considered most potent forms. Very, very potent forms of Bhakti. What are they? Let's decide the shloka. Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtana Bhagavata Shravana.
Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtana Bhagavata Shravana.
Mathuravasa Srimurtira Shraddhaya Sevana.
Mathuravasa Srimurtira Shraddhaya Sevana.
Sadhu Sangha is associating with devotees. Nama Kirtana, chanting the holy names of Krishna. Bhagavata Shravana, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Mathuravasa, residing in a holy place like Mathura or Vrindavan. And Srimurtira Shraddhaya Seva, serving Srimurti, the deity form of Krishna, with Shraddha, with faith. Not a ritual, but faithfully serving. Faithfully serving the deity form of Krishna. Out of 64 limbs of Bhakti, these 5 are considered most potent. And in the top 5, Rupa Goswami kept deity worship. Interesting. If Shravana Kirtan are sufficient, only second and third limbs are to be given as potent limbs. But that Shravana and Kirtan must be done in the association of devotees, therefore Sadhu Sangha is very important. And Sadhu Sangha and Shravanam and Kirtanam in Sadhu Sangha is definitely potent, but we also need a proper ambience. We cannot sit anywhere and then do. We need to create a proper atmosphere for us to get absorbed in Shravanam and Kirtanam in the company of devotees. Therefore Mathuravasa is emphasized. And Mathuravasa is definitely residing in a dham, but we can create Mathuras, we can create Vrindavans everywhere. That's what Prabhupada has created. So when devotees come together to chant the holy names of Krishna and hear Harikatha, that place is not different from Vrindavan, because Vrindavan or Mathura are not places, they are states of consciousness. So it's a state of consciousness. The more we take shelter of the process of bhakti, the more the place becomes sanctified. Then Sri Murtira Shraddhaya Seva. It's very important because although place is pure and clean, although we observe ourselves in Shravanam and Kirtanam, devotees are around, there should be some center, visible center for our association, and that center is deities. Krishna is everywhere. It's like water is everywhere. When I become thirsty, I can drink water only in bottle. Right? I need that water element, visible form that can go into my mouth. Moisture is everywhere. I can't just pick up moisture anywhere and then quench my thirst. So I need to drink water element. Similarly, Krishna is everywhere. He's all pervading, but he has to manifest in the form of a deity, in an accessible form. We need very exalted devotees can see Krishna everywhere. Sthavara Jangama Dekhi Nadekhi Tara Murti. They don't see animate and inanimate objects. They only have Ishtadeva Spurti. They only remember their Ishtadeva, their dearest Lord, wherever they see, whatever they see. But the general average sadhaka does not have that maturity or consciousness, developed, evolved consciousness to be able to see Krishna everywhere. Therefore, for such people, Murti Seva is very much recommended, very important. Out of the 64 limbs, 5 potent forms are these 5, and one of them is deity worship. Very important. And Rupa Goswami further says in this shloka, Sakala sadhana sreshta yai pancha anga Krishna prema janmaya yai panchara alpa sanga Sakala sadhana sreshta yai pancha anga. Of all limbs of sadhana, these 5 limbs are most potent. Sreshta means the best. Krishna prema janmaya yai panchara alpa sanga. Even slightest involvement or engagement in these 5 forms of bhakti can give us Krishna prema. Krishna prema janmaya yai panchara alpa sanga. Even slight engagement in deity worship or chanting the holy names can give us Krishna prema. Can someone read it instead of me speaking all the while? Yes, read this blue letters.
The power of these 5 principles is very wonderful and difficult to reconcile. Even without faith in them, a person who is defenseless can experience dormant love of Krishna simply by being connected with them.
Offenselessly, if one can engage in any of these 5 limbs, one can attain love for Krishna. Prabhupada writes like this in Bhakti Rasamrita Krishna, master of devotion. And another interesting fact is, there are 64 limbs of bhakti. Out of them 5 are potent. But how many are remaining? 59 are remaining. Out of the remaining 59 limbs of bhakti, most of them are directly connected to deity worship. Whether it is Tulsi, worshipping Tulsi, or circumambulating deities, offering bhoga to the deities, chanting prayers in front of the deities. Many of the limbs, out of the remaining 59 limbs, most of them, at least 30 plus are 34 are directly connected to deity worship. Out of 64, 34. More than 50% of the Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is centered on deity worship. It's not a small figure. Prabhupada quotes this shloka. He speaks the translation of this shloka. Let's try to recite this shloka that emphasizes the importance of deity worship. Smeram bhangi traya parichitam sachi vistirna drishtim.
Smeram bhangi traya parichitam sachi vistirna drishtim.
Shīnyastā dharati shalayam ujjvalam chandrakedam.
Vamshīnyastā dharati shalayam ujjvalam chandrakedam.
Govindakhyam harita dumitaha keshitatropakanthe.
Govindakhyam harita keshitatropakanthe.
Ma prekshisthastavaya disakhe bandhu sange stiranga.
Ma prekshisthastavaya disakhe bandhu sange stiranga.
Smeram bhangi traya parichitam sachi vistirna drishtim. Oh my dear friend, if at all you have any interest in any enjoyment, any type of enjoyment in this material world, better don't go to Vrindavan. especially don't go to Yamuna, especially don't go to Keshi Ghat, and don't see the threefold, don't see that Krishna who is standing there in a threefold bending form. Govindakhyam harika nubitaha Keshi Tirtha Kanthe. Keshi Tirtha, at Keshi Ghat, Govinda is playing his flute, standing in a threefold bending form. Don't see him. You will forget everything else. You will give up all your material desires. You will give up all your plans to enjoy a material plane, and you will become a fan of Vrindavan. How many of you want to follow this advice by Rupa Goswami? Nobody. You want to go to Vrindavan? You want to follow? No, are you happy with this? Not happy. He is following this advice. I hope you didn't understand it. So basically, the shloka says, better go. Don't go. Go.
It's not saying it strictly.
Huh?
It's not saying it strictly. It's saying like it's an order to do it, and yeah,
Okay.
part of it.
So by emphasizing the opposite, he is emphasizing the opposite. Don't go means please go. If at all you want to give up your taste in material enjoyment, better go to Vrindavan, better go to Yamuna, better see threefold Krishna is standing in a threefold form, threefold bending form on the bank of Yamuna. And where can we see? At this moment, with this blunt material senses, we won't be able to see Krishna's form standing at the Keshi Tirtha. We have to see Krishna's deity form only. We have to see Madhu, we have to see Govindji, we have to see Gopinathji or Gokulanandaji. So Krishna is standing in various forms. In Vrindavan, we can only see those forms. So we can't just see Krishna like that in his spiritual form with our material senses. So, seeing the form of Krishna with our eyes, when he makes him accessible in a form which we can see, like whether it's stone deity or brass deity or paint or print, whatever it is. The visible form is there in front of us which we can access through our material senses. Then it becomes easy for us to absorb Krishna. We can't just close our eyes and then start meditating on the Lord's form, because so many other forms will come in the mind. Better open your eyes and see the deity form of the Lord, so that form is fixed. The deity is carved according to Vedic regulations, scriptural prescriptions, and also it is nicely decorated, so lovingly by devotees, and nicely dressed, ornamented. And that deity is not different from Krishna, and seeing that deity is like seeing Krishna. Therefore, it's a recommendation that we see the Lord. Drishtva tesha mithora dranam
Drishva tesha mithora
avagna anam rupa Tretadishu harerarcha hariyati kavidhi krita. The purpose of introducing deity worship at the end of Treta Yuga is many people are becoming disrespectful towards each other. One of the most important benefits of worshipping deities is we become respectful to other devotees, or we are supposed to become respectful to other devotees. Because devotees or people in general, they are not respectfully dealing with each other. At the end of Treta Yuga, actual bhakti is established. So when Krishna is there personally present, standing there in the form of a deity, then the devotees become more conscious in their dealings with others. Not only dealing with others, dealing with paraphernalia, even non-living things. One devotee was sharing experience of going through deity worship course. Even kartals or any other paraphernalia connected to the Lord, the devotee is saying that I am able to treat them with respect. So our respect towards other devotees and even every object and every living entity connected to Krishna will increase to the degree absorb ourselves in deity worship. We become more respectful in our dealings. Vaishnava qualities are developed by worshipping the deities sincerely. Now we have a lot to discuss. I will go a little faster. Yes, yes. Kriteya dhyayato Vishnum Tretayam yajato makhaihi Pare
द्वापरे परिचर्यायां
Kalau
कीर्तनात्
tad Hari Kirtanat. What we achieve by doing sacrifices in Krita Yuga, what we achieve by conducting various sacrifices, Krita Dhyayata Vishnu, what we achieve by doing so much of meditation on Lord Vishnu in Krita Yuga, what we achieve by doing so many sacrifices in Treta Yuga, what we achieve by worshipping the deities in Dwapara Yuga, we can achieve all of them, and in fact much more in Kali Yuga by chanting the holy names of Lord Hari. Hare Nama Kirtanam. So, if this is the version of Srimad Bhagavatam, then what is the significance of worshipping the deities? If Kalautat Hari Kirtanas is mentioned, what's the significance of worshipping deities? How many of us will rise early in the morning to chant the holy names of Krishna when there is no temple, when there are no deities, when there is no regulation of attending Mangalarati in the temple? So, in the absence of an Archa Murti, a deity, it's a bit difficult for us to chant early in the morning in Brahma Muhurta time. When deity worship is established, 4:30 curtain has to be opened. Means 3:45 you need to be ready and report at the deity room and make all preparations and offer Balya Bhoga and do other upacharas for the deities from 4 o'clock. 4 to 4:30 is meant for that. So deity worship will make us more regulated in our practices. Deity worship will introduce discipline. Sometime back we saw how deity worship introduces respectful dealings amongst Vaishnavas. Now we are seeing how deity worship induces discipline and etiquette and regulation in our activities, day-to-day activities. And then we will have a quiz. What all benefits of deity worship are there? You can all mention. You can keep writing this. You can forget. So deity worship inspires a community to come together. When deities are there and festival is being celebrated to worship the deities, all devotees come together, cook for the deities, make garlands for the deities, make nice dresses for the deities, make nice jewelry for the deities, and dress the deities and decorate them nicely, decorate the altar, clean the temple hall, cook and feed prasadam. So this deities, service to the deities will bring an entire community of devotees together. Community of devotees is brought together by deities. So deity worship will induce camaraderie. Deity worship will induce unity amongst devotees. That unity, camaraderie, friendship, cooperative nature, all these are introduced by deities. Krishna will personally sit together and oversee all the activities done by the devotees and also ensure that they develop spiritual desires. Yesterday at the construction site we were discussing, the glances of the deities on the devotees will induce spiritual desires, maintain spiritual desires and fulfill spiritual desires. Our minds are filled with so many material desires in this material world. Pibanti ye bhagavata atmanas satam kathamrutam shravanaputeshu samhritam punanti te vishaya vidushitashayam brajanti tacharana saroruhantikam. By hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, by allowing the sound vibration of Srimad Bhagavatam to enter our ear holes, we are purifying our contaminated aspirations of life. Whatever contamination is there in the heart, in the form of bad desires and materialistic aspirations, all that is washed away by hearing Bhagavatam. And that Bhagavatam says, not only hearing me, you should also go and stand in front of the deities, and the glances of the deities, when they fall on you, you will develop spiritual desires. When you regularly take darshan of the deities, then you will maintain the spiritual desires. Sometimes we may have a desire, but we will forget our desires. How many of you had some desire, some plan, but after some time you forgot it? Now I am not aspiring for this anymore. So because we are not able to maintain the spiritual desire, all the spiritual desires are mainly maintained and nourished by the deities. And fulfillment of spiritual desires also will happen by exposing ourselves to the glances of the deities. I think it's a sentimentalism, overly being emotional. No. Bhagavatam, one of the five potent forms of bhakti, emphasizes the importance of worshipping deities and the potency of worshipping the deities. In Uddhava Gita, Krishna speaks. In Kapila Gita, Lord Kapila speaks. Lord in various incarnations is emphasizing the importance of worshipping the deity forms and how it is beneficial to all of us. Further, went back. This is from Sandarbhas by Jiva Goswami. We saw what Bhagavatam said. We also saw what Acharyas are saying. This is from where? This is from Bhagavad Gita. Now we will see what Jiva Goswami, who did a great analysis of the Sandarbhas, who wrote Sandarbhas by doing a great analysis of Srimad Bhagavatam, what he is saying. Let's see. Can someone read 4 devotees and read 4 statements?
Seeing that in the course of time false had become manifested among the devotees of the Lord, the Vedas revealed another way to worship the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.14.39.
The Vedas revealed another way to worship the Lord, that is deity worship. Seeing what? Seeing people developing so many faults in devotees. Even while practicing bhakti, devotees have so many faults, so many inconsistencies and irregularities and other shortcomings. One can overcome those shortcomings and anarthas by worshiping the deities. Next, read the second statement. Someone else.
My dear king, when great sages and saintly persons saw mutually disrespectful dealing at the beginning of Treta Yuga, deity worship in the temple was introduced with all paraphernalia.
Sometime the meanings of the shlokas. Next.
This verse means seeing the mutually disrespectful dealings that introduced deity worship.
Next.
Deity worship is the best means of spiritual advancement for those who have these kinds of faults. Deity worship is also described in the conversions of Brahma, Ambarisha, and other great souls as recorded in the Darshan Purana and other scriptures.
See, Shravana Kirtana is foremost. Why Brahma and Ambarish Maharaj should sit together and discuss about deity worship? In fact, Ambarish Maharaj is given as a great example of doing temple worship. Savai Maha Krishna Padaramandi, or we'll recite the shloka something later. But he is using his hands in cleaning the temple of the Lord. Karau Harer Mandiram Arjanadishi. Mandir was there in Ambarish Maharaj's time also, not only in Kali Yuga. Mandiram Arjanadishu. Ambarish Maharaj, the ruler of entire Bhumandala, is taking a jhadu and cleaning the temples. Chaitanya Charitamrita is filled with stories of deities. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would every day go to the temple of Jagannathji and see the deity form of Lord Jagannathji and would go into ecstasy. And we also have Madhavendra Puri worshipping the deities of Gopalji in Vrindavan and going all the way to Jagannath to get some chandan for Gopalji. And on the way, he had a very nice, sweet, loving exchange with Gopinath Ramana. So many deity stories in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhavendra Puri, then Sakshi Gopal, you know Sakshi Gopal story, right? So the Lord is acting as a witness for the promise that is made by this older Brahmana to the younger Brahmana. So deities are not just some kind of carved, artificial, beautiful forms, just standing there like dolls. They are potent manifestations of Krishna. They are not different from Krishna. They can reciprocate, they can speak, they can talk, they can walk. But all this will happen to the degree we are sincere in worshipping them. Because we have Zoom link for online classes. Even if one letter is missing there in the link may be 1 kilometer long with so many characters. But just one character missing there, you will go into another or not found, link not found, or you will just connect somewhere else to a different frequency.
404 error.
404 error found. But when we have the right link, then we can hear the class that we intend to hear. Similarly, when we have the right consciousness, we will be able to access the potency of the deity form of Krishna, not an ordinary thing. Prabhupada writes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita purpose. Can someone read this first statement? You will only give the class to. I will only add some comments here and there.
CC Madhya 19.152 purport. Sometimes neophyte devotees think that they can continue the Sravana Kirtana process without worshipping the deity. But the execution of Sravana Kirtana is meant for highly developed devotees like Haridas Thakur, who engage in Sravana Kirtana process without worshipping the deity. Therefore, one should not falsely imitate Haridas Thakur and abandon deity worship.
Kirtan is definitely meant for everybody. Not only Haridas Thakur, but all these struggling sadhakas also are supposed to do Sravana Kirtan. But what Prabhupada is emphasizing here is only Sravana Kirtan without deity worship is not for devotees, not for neophyte devotees. For us, to be able to constantly, continuously chant the holy names of Krishna requires so much of purity of consciousness and focus of mind. Do we have that? Although we may sit and chant 64 rounds every day, how much are we able to focus on the holy name? And how much of so many other kind of thoughts are there popping up in the mind when we are chanting the holy names of Krishna? So instead of imitating Haridas Thakur, better do some practical, physical service with your senses and you purify your mind. Because when we are chanting the holy names of Krishna, mind is wandering everywhere, right? We have to chant the prescribed number of rounds and then few extra rounds as much as possible, as much as it's practical. But when we are making a garland for the deities, okay? When you are making the garland for the deities, you are more focused on making the garland more perfect, right? But when we are chanting, we are not focusing on perfect chanting. Okay, the attention is just diverted all over the place. But here it has to be meticulous. Now, as many flowers are there on this side, those many flowers only should be there on that side. Otherwise, there is a imbalance. See, the color sequence also: red, green, blue, yellow, orange, blue, green, red. So, as it is on the other side, replicate it. It's not copy paste. Physically do it. In computer, you can copy paste and it will come as it is, but here you have to physically do it. How much meticulousness is required to make this garland? So, now we can be more focused. Mind is more focused when you are doing a physical activity rather than chanting the holy names. I am not minimizing the importance of chanting the holy names, and we are not belittling the importance to chant some extra words whenever we have some time. But I am just saying that for a sadhaka who is unable to control the mind only by Sravana Kirtan, mind control is achieved by worshipping the deities and engaging in some physical, practical services with senses. Right? That's the point we are emphasizing. We are nowhere belittling Sravana and Kirtan. We come to that also. How to balance nicely between Pancharatrika Vidhi and Bhagavata Vidhi, we'll come to that. We have enough discussion there. All Shastric statements, all proper statements, all Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita shlokas and Chaitanya Charitamrita shlokas, all authentic stuff. We are not. Sometimes when we are emphasizing one link of bhakti, what happens is we consciously or unconsciously try to belittle other links of bhakti because we are emphasizing that. Deity worship is yoga dharma. Chanting is yoga dharma. Undoubtedly chanting is yoga dharma. Okay. But deity worship has its own prominence and we are highlighting that prominence in this current seminar. Yeah. Second statement.
Deity worship should be continued along with hearing and chanting. Even though the chanting of the holy name is sufficient to enable one to progress in spiritual life to the standard of love of Godhead, one is nonetheless susceptible to to contamination because of possessing a material body. Consequently, special stress is given to the Archana Vidhi. One should therefore regularly take advantage of both the processes of Bhagavata and the Pancharatrika process.
Thank you, Parikshit Maharaj, right? So this is from Prahalad Maharaj, where he said, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnoho Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sankyam Atmanivedanam. But that shloka Prabhupada writes elaborate purport, maybe 15 pages of purport. He writes very elaborate. One of the statements is this, where he said that, yes, is sufficient. Yet, deity worship has its own significance because it gives us that that process of being contaminationless. We need to be physically clean. We need to come to the level of mode of goodness. To transcend the modes, first we need to. The 11th kind of Bhagavatam says that place, runway, where the flight takes off, that is called goodness. Outside roads and all the skyscraper buildings, all that area is in Tamogun and Rajogun. Runway is in Sattvagun, and when you take off, it's in transcendence. Of course, everything is material world, but we are just making a comparison. It's just an analogy. So from runway, the flight can take off. Means we need to raise above the lower modes and come to Sattva-guna, and from Sattva-guna we can just take off to Nirguna Bhakti. So what brings us to Sattva-guna is deity worship. When it is done in pure consciousness, definitely deity worship is a transcendental spiritual activity. It's not simple Sattva-guna activity. Again, we are not bringing deity worship down to the level of Sattva-guna. Deity worship is transcendental. It is spiritual activity. It's one of the 9 limbs of bhakti, undoubtedly. But when we say we will come to Sattva-guna by doing deity worship, from our lower modes, we are trying to rise to the level of higher modes. To worship the deities nicely, we have to get up early in the morning. We have to take a bath. So we will become physically clean. Whenever you have to enter the altar, you have to take bath and enter the altar. You have to be physically clean. And when you are worshipping the deities, you can't be blaspheming another devotee while trying turban for the Lord. Right?
Srila Jiva Goswami describes the importance of deity worship and initiation as follows. Quoted by Srila Prabhupada in Chaitanya Yadyapi Shri Bhagavat Mate Pancharatra. It is Srimad Bhagavatam's opinion that the process of deity worship is not actually necessary, just as the specific prescriptions of the Pancharatra and other scriptures do not have to be followed. The Bhagavatam enjoins that even without practicing deity worship can one achieve the complete success of human life by any of the other devotional processes, such as simply offering oneself at the lotus feet for his protection.
Nonetheless, Vaishnavas following the path of Sri Narada and his successors endeavor to establish a personal relationship with the Lord by receiving the grace of a bona fide spiritual worship. Although deity worship is not essential, the material condition of most candidates for devotional service requires that they engage in this activity. When we consider their bodily and mental conditions,
meant to bring deity worship to the level of only Sattva-guna, only to purify oneself from material contamination. Ultimately, whether it is chanting the names of Krishna, or studying Srimad Bhagavatam, or reciting in Ithna, or serving Vaishnavas, or associating with Vaishnavas, or worshipping the deities, all these activities are meant to be an expression of love for Krishna, and experiencing love of Krishna. All these 5 limbs can give us Krishna Prema, can make us experience Krishna's Prema for us. Krishna Prema has 2 interpretations. The love that we have for Krishna, the love that Krishna has for us. So we can express Krishna Prema and experience Krishna Prema and develop Krishna Prema through all these 5 different forms of bhakti. But one of the most important byproducts of deity worship is we come to the level of Sattva. It is not so much for the Lord. When cooking for the deities, most of the times devotees prefer, I like to eat gulab jamun today. Fine, let me eat gulab jamun offered to Krishna. So many times deities will become like prasadam manufactured machines. Right? To convert normal food into prasadam, and some places they keep the standard low for a moment, for some time, till they have more manpower, more deities to maintain the show. So they'll keep 3 offerings in a day, or 2 offerings in a day. Like that in Gauranga Darshan we have installed deities, where 6 offerings and 6 artis and 2 dressings happen for installed deities. But there are also some deities in smaller temples. We have a replica of Vrindavan, where Radha Gokulananji, we just keep photos and then worship them. There are only 2 offerings in a day. Morning one, evening one. Only 1 arti in a day. So the standards are minimal, simple. So you just accept some standard. You have some deities and you commit to them this much standard of worship I can do with my current situation. You can increase later, but at this moment this is what is my standard. and don't go below that. So that commitment given to Krishna, given to the deity form of Krishna, will bring us to mode of goodness, will make us more and more disciplined, will purify us from all these material contaminations. So material world means conditions also are inconsistent and irregular in whatever they do. How many of you have had an experience of making some plan, some resolution, your resolution, and after a week or so, resolution is gone. We are unable to implement that plan anymore. It happens, right? But in deity's case, we cannot do that. Once you have completed means forever, jindagi bhar. Continue on perpetually as long as existence exists, material world exists. So it should pass on to generations. You go to South India, many temples are 1000 years old, 800 years old, 1200 years old. That's till now people are continuing the deity worship. Right? How much consistency they have for generations. Generations together they are continuing. So that consistency is one important part of deity worship, and that will help us to become consistent in our own connection with Krishna. Right? What is the definition of bhakti given by Bhagavatam? Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktiradhokshati ahaituki apratihata yayatmas prasidati. Ahaituki means without any motivations. Apratihata means uninterrupted, without any interruptions. So we can come to that level. This is like Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita means that which is based on Sravana Kirtan, core limbs of Bhakti. Pancharatric Veda means there is a lot of involvement of rituals and procedures. That is called Pancharatric Veda. That basically Archana regulations are there in Pancharatric Veda. So Ahituki, that's the commitment of deity worship. When I worship the deities, sometimes there may be some motivations. I will do Janmashtami Aarti. So whatever you may have a desire, but that desire is fulfilled only on Janmashtami. In the annual calendar, major festivals are 10 12. But remaining days, without any motivation, you have to do Aarti. Whether somebody is clicking your photo or not, whether people are seeing you or not, alone, many temples you see Pujari and deities alone. Intimate service. The number of personalities on the altar are more than number of people standing there. Many times. Only Pujari. That will help you to come to Ahituki Bhakti, unmotivated Bhakti. And uninterrupted. Also, you feel like taking some rest, there is no second Pujari available. You have to worship consistency. Consistent. So you come to the level of Ahituki or Pratihata Bhakti by taking deity. At least. Firstly. So the commitment is good. Because once you give a commitment to Krishna, you cannot go back. Whether you have taste or not, you have committed to Guru. I will chant 16 rounds. Somehow or other you will finish 16 rounds. Before 12 a.m. in the night. Somehow it will finish 16 rounds. Even the attentive or inattentive, or one hand counting, one hand checking Instagram reels. Somehow it will finish many rounds. Somehow we finish. So commitment has that potency. So deity worship is a big commitment, lifelong commitment. Of course, in a community, multiple devotees take turns in doing that deity worship, and there are a few devotees who are running the show, who are coordinators. So I know what a big responsibility it is. For a decade, I had to be there as a deity worship in charge. We had to run behind people, cooking, garland making, dresses, ornaments, makeup, sleeping, 2 dressings, 6 aartis, 6 offerings, ingredients purchase, budgets. Not a small responsibility that will make you more consistent, more dependent on Krishna. And when you are offering bhoga to the Lord with 56 items, or at least an average Rajabhoga plate has at least 14-15 items. If you are fed like that every day, how long you will survive? But Krishna can eat like that every day 6 meals. Rajabhoga has 8 sweets. 6 milk sweets and 1 dry fruit laddu, 1 sompa. Like that, they have at least 8 sweets in Gauranga Darshan. Every day you take 8 sweets with each sweet 2-3 items. right? Some sweet rice and ghee in it. How long can we survive in this body? Diabetes, cholesterol, I don't know what all my can decide. By worshipping the deity so opulently, you'll realize that he's Krishna, he's God, I'm not God. He's the controller, I'm not controller. Only he can eat. This much I cannot eat. Only he can dress himself in such ornaments. Even in summer, the Lord is overly decorated with so many ornaments. So when we are decorated, how long can we handle it? The Lord can. When you are bathing the Lord in Abhishek, you are pouring honey. If somebody pours honey on your face, someone bathes you with milk, 1 hour Abhishek continues. So many people enthusiastically pour honey, so much honey, so much sugar water syrup. Only he can enjoy, we cannot enjoy. So deity worship helps you realize that you are not the controller, you are not the proprietor, you are not the boss. Krishna is the boss. Krishna is the controller. He is the enjoyer. I am not enjoyer. We will give up our enjoying propensities. The more you feel broken to the deities, the more you will be detached from eating. Right? You can take some Mahaprasad, but I cannot relish Mahaprasad like him. I cannot relish Prasadam like him, Krishna. So that will realize. What is it?
An additional joke to your statement.
Joke.
In Houston, I was living there about 20 years ago. They used to make Sunday announcements. For one announcements, they announced very clearly, please don't bring non-fat and 2% milk. Krishna can handle whole milk.
Yuktahara viharasya, yuktacheshasya karmasu. But as far as feeding ahara to Krishna is concerned, you can express your full love. Okay. Next. Please read. So Pancharatra Vidhi or Bhagavad Vidhi. Shravana Kirtan or Archan. Archan is Pancharatra Vidhi. Shravana Kirtan is Bhagavad Vidhi. Which is most important? By the way, weak in one means weak in the other. Okay, if we are weak in deity worship, we are weak in Shravana Kirtan. If we are weak in Shravana Kirtan, we are weak in deity worship also. Sometimes, in the name of worshipping deities, we become so infatuated to decorate the deities so much that urban will become pincushion. Pincushion, I understand? There is no small for the pincushion. Keep on putting like this, and turban will become full katokri. It's like a big bouquet of flowers. See, we little sense control while worshipping the deities and putting some flowers. Very light flowers. Few flowers, not so many. Few ornaments, few hangings, and glorify me as a great artist just by seeing my dressing. So the focus is not on Krishna, focus is on getting glorification for being very artistic. Yes, we have to worship the deities and decorate the deities so nicely, especially on festivals, but the focus is to keep Krishna in the center. Turban should reveal Krishna's face nicely. It should not dominate Krishna's face. Turban, when it covers the forehead, where is the Lord? Where is Krishna's forehead? You have to say, so let the face be the center, and turban is just around the face, revealing the face nicely. Sometimes when the turban comes like this, altar focus lights are there. The shadow comes on the eyes of the deities. Isn't it good? Isn't it? There are some finer nuances. We are here not highlight our own artistic skills. Sometimes when photos are taken, the photos are taken in such a way that that particular jelly of the plant is also visible in the photo. And the painting that we have done, that is more visible in the photo. Or the turban that the way we have done on side. Oh, in front view it's not visible. Seen from the side view and click this part. So you can show Krishna in side angle, but not just highlighting your artistic skills. So sometimes overly getting absorbed in deity worship and decoration and feeding the Lord, that also may make compromise Shravana Kirtan. Shravana Kirtan is very, very important. No puja is allowed to worship 7 days in a week, generally speaking, unless they have great manpower crunch. And even if they happen to do 7 days deity worship, some time is given in their schedule so that they can chant the holy names. And many of those devotees also get up much early in the morning, sleep early in the night, get up early in the morning, and they chant the holy names of Krishna nicely. At least half rounds, majority of rounds are completed before entering the altar. So that's a very good balance of Shravan Kirtan and Archan. But sometimes focus goes on the deity worship and people are just chanting very, very mechanically. And dressing is over. We can sit in one corner and properly chant, right? So while chanting, they look at the deities. That's good as far as to get inspiration is concerned. But while chanting, they analyze. I should have put that up on this. I should have put this flower there. And with bead bag in hand, they will go and adjust on the face of the chanting is going on, and they adjust the cloth of the deities sometimes. Let's not mix up things. Little bit fine here and there, but we should not become we should not compromise on Shravana Kirtan in the name of deity worship, and we should not compromise on deity worship also in the name of Shravana. Sometimes so fast they put dhoti on Krishna as if they were the dhoti. It's not like putting gamcha on Krishna, right? You have to present the dhoti in a proper manner and then tie it nicely. And tie the turban, tie the waistbelt nicely, and then ornament it nicely, and give whatever time is required. Don't overdo it, but give whatever time is required. When you're expert also, you need not compromise on the safety also, and it is presentable also. Some devotees are expert in that, but some devotees they focus on just finishing the dressing so that they can chant. They squeeze out so much of time from the dressing time to increase their rounds. Then you are neglecting, and it's like an emotionless way of worshipping the deities. That is also not recommended. Like balance is required. Proper hearing chanting and proper sadhana. When devotees are just absorbing so much of deity worship, they don't sit in Bhagavatam classes. They don't sit in chanting circles. They chant on their own, 1 or 2 rounds while walking here and there, 1 or 2 rounds while chit-chatting with others, 1 or 2 rounds while taking care, while keeping the paraphernalia in their places. Like that, the 16 rounds will be dragged throughout the day without sufficient focus. So we should not compromise on chanting while worshipping deities. And we should not compromise deity worship also because chanting is most important. So balance should be required. Please read this.
On one side, we are cautioned to not neglect Archana on the plea of engaging solely in Shravan Kirtana, principal means of sadhana. Nama Kirtana is the very life of all forms of bhakti, and for this reason, anyone who wants to worship the deity must strictly chant his fixed number of rounds. Anyone who is lax in his sadhana of chanting will also be lax in his attention to the worship of the deity.
Basically, whichever limb of bhakti, we cannot compromise one while doing the other. Next. I think let's play this clip. Let's hear from Prabhupada directly.
Guru without hearing what we do now. Savanam Kirtanam. This is our time business. Savanam. What do you do?
Everyone here?
This is the self.
How do we
Coming from the TV view.
Hare Krishna Premanand. When did you come?
This is the self. Difficult. That we are not getting my Guru Maharaj has given a pardon in this net. So, must be very much salam in Savanam Kirtanam. Otherwise, all this labor will do that. This building will the land, nest or the dome as it begins. That is being done. Nobody is in such things.
So Prabhupada is emphasizing in this audio clip that deity worship can become a great burden without Shravanam and Kirtan. That we are not sufficiently hearing about Krishna and his glories, then after some time worshipping the deities will become very burdensome, and instead of seeing the deity as we see it as Gauranga. But when we hear and chant nicely, then the deity worship is not burden. It's an opportunity to express love. It's an opportunity to experience Krishna's love. Krishna, we have so kindly manifested in this deity form. Material senses, I cannot see your beautiful spiritual form. Therefore, you have become kind enough to manifest yourself in a form that I can access. I can serve. Thank you so much. You experience Krishna's love in manifesting his deity form, and you also express Krishna's love in serving the deity meticulously. Seeing the deity not different from Krishna. For that, we need to do Shravanam Kirtan. We have to chant his names, we have to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Then it's complete. So temple worship strongly emphasizes the aspect of Vaidhi Bhakti involving strict regulations, which forms the basis of Pancharatrika. Both should go on parallel. Can someone read the last paragraph?
No one can worship the Lord in the Bhagavata Vidhi without going through the regulations of the Pancharatrika Vidhi. Although there may be a Radha Krishna Vigraha, the worship of the neophyte devotees is acceptable only by spot offences will not be.
Still, the mode of worship is like Lakshmi Narayan, in reverence. We have to follow the standards of reverential worship, not just intimate worship. So spend minimal time in front of deities while dressing the deities. Minimum means whatever is required, but not going beyond time, not unnecessarily going into the altar. Maintain that reverence. Dressing time is over, you're out. Complete the service nicely within that prescribed time. It's not that I'm personal pujari, I can go anywhere, anytime inside the altar. I can have a conversation with the deities. If I meet the devotees and disregard those devotees, the deities will be displeased. Now, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita,
what is the meaning of Pancharatra?
The
Word itself. Yeah.
Narada Muni has given that literature, Pancharatra Vidhi. I don't know, Mataji can share.
I just heard sometime back that apparently after partial annihilation, Brahma instructed Narada Muni over 5 nights. So that's right, yes. That's right.
I have one more question. In the last line of the sentence it says, keep our eyes trained to spot offenses. Does that mean that Pujari is spotting faults of others?
Means not doing offences. Means we can't be neglectful in our deity worship. We need to be attentive and alert so that we don't commit offences. Then Jiva Goswami instructs that other processes such as Archana, Vandana, Dasya, Sakhya should be executed, but they must be preceded and followed by Kirtan. Means he is emphasizing on Bhagavad Gita. If we sincerely worship the deities, lot of chanting of the holy names of Krishna is involved in worshipping the deities. Many procedures, whether it is waking up the deity or doing upachara, shodashopachara, puja to the deities, or dressing the deities, or offering arti to the deities, holy name is constantly being chanted. Then Jiva Goswami says that although Sankirtan is sufficient for the perfection of life, Archana must continue in order that the devotees may stay clean and pure. And both should go on simultaneously as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Traffic. When we go and offer obeisances in front of the deities, that makes more sense. Right? So Madhyaji, Man, Manaskar are very much connected to deity worship. So from the instructions of Acharyas, we can understand that both are necessary. Next. Can someone read that? That's it.
If one is attentive in his service name, his chanting of various mantras during Archana will become an effective part of the Shrinam.
Follows that if hearing and chanting are to remain the heartbeat of ISKCON's devotional curriculum, and if devotees are to develop the proper qualification for these practices, then deity worship must be done perfectly.
We have more. Whom is deity worship meant for? But we have only 12 minutes before the first break. I would like to take some questions if any devotees have questions or add any reflections, any corrections, any objections.
One question. One of the slides it says at the time of initiation, devotees is obliged to start deity worship. But currently we are emphasizing only on like regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds.
Traditionally, gurus also would instruct the general devotees, initiated devotees to also engage in deity worship. We worship Saligram, we worship Radha Krishna deities or Gauranga deities or Jagannath Baladev deities or Govardhan Shila. Some such instructions are also traditional. But it also depends on the guru's preference and the need. Mothers can add.
I heard from Viraj Maharaj that I don't know that until Bhakti Siddhanta's time, initiation was only one, and you got your Gayatri during that initiation, and you got the permission and the blessings to worship the deity. But Bhakti Siddhanta, having seen the progress of Kali Yuga consciousness, divided initiations into two, so that the first would be the preparatory phase, and once people showed their commitment, then Brahman as a second initiation in order to worship the deity. Is that your knowledge also? No? Okay.
So one of the aspects of deity worship, one thing it brings about is the community comes together and the camaraderie that you said. Should I repeat that? You heard. So, during festivals we see that quite often, that it really brings the community together and the camaraderie. But what I'm thinking about is in the regular, or when people are very much involved in their own deity worship at home, we don't see that participation in the temple, and morning program is practically empty. So how do we work around with that?
The community has to come together to increase their presence in the temple hall as much as it is practical. We understand there are some practical constraints, but as much as possible, if we can try to come together to do some Sravanam Kirtanam in the presence of the deities in the temple, that's a wonderful way of increasing our absorption in Krishna. And many temples have this. And many devotees also take their homes nearby the temple in that locality. I have seen many temples let me not take names. We can also take names of good examples. Seattle, I have seen nice deities are there. Many devotees just take their homes very close to the temple. In walkable distance, or just within 5-10 minutes, or within 5 minutes of car travel only, you can access all homes, and all the rest of the devotees are just running the show of deity worship. 6 offerings, 6 artists, no concept of maid servant or other kinds of volunteers. Or devotees only who are having their own corporate jobs, their household duties, and their kids, despite all that they are managing to do it. But it may not be practical for everybody, depending on their financial status, depending on the kind of work engagement they have, the kind of profession they have. So we don't demand it from every single devotee. But if there is a possibility, we can try to explore it. That's how it is.
Question in the same group. If you have the same amount of time,
There are people sitting in the back.
oh, sorry. Like, if I have the same amount of time, maybe 2 hours, and I can do an elaborate worship at home, or I can do some worship at the temple, but don't have time for both. That's like very black and white situation. But in a more subtle situations where there is no pujari at the temple. And so, can you guide in those situations?
No pujari in the temple.
You know, like, for example, somebody is sick or something, and I have to, I can't do an elaborate aarti in both places.
Devotees need to extend themselves as much as possible. The principle is, once we start worship, especially with established, installed deities, we need to somehow or the other run the show. We can borrow manpower, and we can request devotees to just stay there full time. Do something, do the needful. Do not compromise on the basic standards that are established for the installed deities.
Raghunath Prabhu in Chowpatty had taken a seminar some time back, and he had, would you concur with it? He had said something to the effect that home deities are expansions of the main temple deities. So if in a rare situation you have to compromise the worship of your home deities so that the main deities are taken care of, is that an acceptable?
Temple deities are priority, definitely. Home deities, secondary. Community.
I mean, just to add to that, I heard from His Holiness Radha Swami in one of the seminars he came on deity worship, that the home deities will observe the main deities' energy. So even if you, for some reason, you give priority to the main deities, your in-house deities are also considered as worship because they observe the energy of the main deities.
Any other question?
So, by deity worship, does it mean that we need to have installed deities at our home? For example, I live in New Vrindavan in the temple community. I don't have any installed deities at home. My deity worship is always at the temple. So is that perfect? Because sometimes I have seen that devotees have installed deities, and for some or other, they stop coming to the temple. They say, oh, I don't have time, I have installed deities at home. So I feel that when you live in a temple community, it's better to serve the deities at the temple, otherwise...
Again, I don't want to say anything that kind of intrudes into the fine sentiments of a devotee. Right? They come into temple, but they are worshipping their own personal deities also. Nothing wrong in it, as long as temple worship is not being compromised. So we need to acknowledge the emotions of devotees also. But at the same time, temple devotees are priority. As long as that is not being compromised, if somebody is worshipping deities at their home, we can't penalize them or criticize them.
But what I'm saying, they stop coming altogether because the home deities take so much of time, like dressing, baking, cooking, everything. So I'm basically talking about when devotees live in a temple congregation, like home.
Temple campus itself.
Yeah, exactly.
As much as possible. Yeah. They need to come. They have a vow for their own deities, that's fine. the spiritual masters are restricted or they have their own sentiments. And there is not much need in the temple also. Other devotees are running the show. They are able to manage the deity services. So they can prioritize, but at the same time, not at the cost of neglecting. There should not be disrespect towards the main deities, but we can always worship the other deities. Okay. We cannot get into extremes. We need to respect the final sentiments of devotees and let's not immediately judge them or label them and discourage them in whatever they are doing. We can always tell them, oh, we can come to temple also and then participate here also, rest we can come here also. Okay. Thank you. But the principle of worshipping the deities is being honored by them. That's great. Any other questions?
Thank you, Prabhu. So my question is regarding the standards. So you had mentioned earlier that once we set a standard, then we should not go lower. So we should be careful when we are setting the standards. And this is not for the temple, because for temple deities there is a set standards, right? That's given by.
I spoke about temple only.
Okay, I'm talking about home. Right, and I'm coming to the home standards. Sometimes we set standards which are more practical for us, but if others may not agree or may not like the way we are performing, and then it may it may lead to some conversations where we may have to now start raising our standards and compromise on other things. So is there any for home?
Yeah, at home.
Like minimum standards.
You can keep minimal standards.
But yeah, what is the minimum standards?
In principle, keeping minimal standards is okay, but who are the deities that you are worshipping at home also matters. Gauranga Darshan, Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, that most prefer. Radha Krishna worship is most elaborate. Even at home also, if it is Gauranga Darshan, then things are more simpler. With Radha Krishna, we need to be more conscious. It's Harigram and Giriraj Govardhan at home. Means like you cannot, we have to worship them perpetually. Many devotees carry the deities wherever they travel and they try to worship the deities wherever they are. Some minimal offering they do. These are my travel standards and these are my regular standards. And they leave the deity in another devotee friend's home. These 3 days you please worship the deities. I am going for Sadhu Sangha retreat. Right? For 3 days I am not around, you please worship the deities. And they also worship the deities along with their home deities. So like that, some kind of, again, deities bring devotees together. That principle is there. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I was more going towards that direction. Actually, you picked my brain on this. That I was trying to come to this. That okay, you gave an example that somebody gives deities to some other devotees while they are traveling, but sometimes they also rest the deities while they are gone. For Shaligram Shilas also, we have heard that okay, you at least minimum is you bathe, offer tulsi every day. But then what I am not aware of is that is there a bare minimum standards that like even at the temple when we should not have long nails and beard, this and that. Clothes should be clean, but at home not all the time that's happening.
All the time we don't take bath before touching the deities at home.
No, bath is.
Morning bath.
Yes, that's right.
We had 6-7 hours of sleep and touch anything. Holy name, okay. As soon as you get Krishna, you can say that. As I can come here, I love it yoga. I don't know. No, pretty much I don't know. That's why I said, my premises I have said, mood. Methods, you can have some experts. I told Mathaji also. I'll focus on the mood and attitude and importance, significance and Shastra's perspective. As far as practical deity worship is concerned, I have zero experience on home deity worship. Either in guidance or personally doing. So I only acted as pujari in the temple. And I don't know much about cooking and all. I have deity dressing and overseeing everything. That's the scope that I had. It's violence to give guidance without experience. I am not speak on anything that I don't know.
I just want to share one thing. When we got our home deities, again, this is the consciousness of deities, right? The temple or also at home. So Sivaram Maharaj, His Holiness Sivaram Maharaj said like, now you have 2 more sons. So like, because our consciousness was different at that time. So now you have 2 more sons, and I felt like, okay, so now you have 1 son plus 1 daughter and 2 more sons. So basically what Maharaj was saying is like, just like how you take care of your children, feed them, everything. So the same consciousness has to be there. So we are trying to follow the same thing at home. And at the same time now we are working from home. So anytime morning offering, afternoon offering, evening offering is there. The same way like we do morning arati and evening arati when we were going to work. So now we have an opportunity to do morning, afternoon and evening arati as well. So whatever standards we set, we try to follow sincerely. If we can increase based on our situations, so 3 years back situation was different, now it is different. So we have an opportunity to increase.
Sometimes at home there are very small children. There are very small kids. The parents have to give so much of attention to them. 1-year-old babies, 2-year-old, 3-year-old. But when the children are little grown up, parents get little extra time. That's where they can raise the standard. So these are various constraints. The Lord will see the heart. He will see how sincere I will. I will not doing something deliberately out of disrespect or circumstantial or helplessly. The Lord will know that. He is Bhavagrahi Janardana. He will not penalize us. That's why let's not keep very elaborate standards at home. That's what is recommended, general recommendation for general devotees. Unless the devotees have all the external situations set in control, they will not take up more responsibilities. Is it minimal? I'll take a photo, that's the easiest thing to do. They have forms, 3D, 3-dimensional forms, and then grass and marble and all. Naturally, you have to give that attention. We'll take break.
Yes, ma'am. So Hare Krishna devotees, it's 12:04. So 12:15 you can start the second session so that we can be on time for 1:30 to start. Feel free to have water and snack. The rest of the
जाता हूँ